Blarla. Hello peeps and welcome back to Project Hospital. Welcome back to Hospital Services DLC, where we're actually working today on Doctor mode. We're going to be checking out Specialist mode because I have actually been completing some of these missions? I'm not quite sure. Recently. Ooh, objective for insurance company has been completed. Treat patients of controlled doctors in resident mode 40 out of 40. Increase clinic patients per day by 25. Fantastic. Objective for insurance company has been completed. Reach controlled doctor rating at 95%. Get in. Reward 500 experience points for all player created characters. And so we are left, currently we have this correctly diagnosed patients of controlled doctor in specialist mode. And I've done 40 out of 50 because it takes quite a long time to do them. So I've cut it down to the last 10, which always seems to work quite well for an episode. However, once again, lots has been progressing and changing with the hospital. So I'd like to cover those updates as well. It is currently paused because I have a very difficult event going on at the moment. You can see I've got control of all kinds of patients, but I'm worried if I continue to play to get through this event I will accidentally do this, and I would like us to cover a little bit of specialist mode because it does make the game more difficult, and it does start to you have to play it a little bit differently, and I'd like to cover that. You can see here that we have done some preps here for the next DLC, Infectious Diseases DLC, which I'm very, very excited about. So I have built the floor, so we are now finally using this lift up top. And this is the space where infectious diseases will go. And you can see here I've put this little icon at the door. So we are ready for that when it happens. Very excited about it. We've got all sorts going on in the ICU at the moment. I can't believe it. So what other changes has there been? Well, after the last episode, lots were talking about how busy the pharmacy and the gift shop will get, and yes, it has, particularly as the hospital is growing as well, as we've been completing these insurance policies. We're getting more and more into the hospital each day. Now, I actually have reduced the size of this one. Physically in size, it's the same, but I've pushed this room back so that it's smaller, so that we could get these cabinets in. And I've made it more like a shop pharmacy. We've got only 2 here in the day. It did up to 3, but we've now only got 2 in the day, 1 at night. So I've actually reduced this one inside because I've built a second one elsewhere, which I'll show you at the moment. However, I have moved it down 1 square so that we could make the gift shop 1 larger. So the gift shop is now slightly larger, so that I could get a couple of members of staff in there because this was getting quite critical. And I've been joking about, well, I say joking about, but in my Discord and stuff, I have, and in comments, mentioned that I'm upset to see carrots here. You would expect to see grapes here, wouldn't you? Bananas, oranges, and grapes. For a start, carrot is a vegetable, not a fruit, and not something you usually take people in hospital. But of course, this is a bit of a running joke in this game, mildly, because of course we have a particular poster in the game. If we come into items and come to the eye poster, this one here, of course we've got the carrot with the eye, because there's that old sort of wives' tale type thing, isn't it, that if you eat your carrots you can see better in the dark and all that sort of nonsense. So there's clearly some sort of running joke going on there. And I feel like they've taken it too far at this point. Too far. They should be grapes. Anyway, grapes aside, Grape side. There are lots of little design differences that I have made, which I'm not going to cover all of them, but you can see here we've got water and different types of cracks. I've extended this across here. I've also moved this zebra crossing a bit so that it's under shelter when it's raining. There's lots of little things like that, but the major changes is, look, I have finally done the redesign on X-ray, on radiology, where I have actually redesigned the department. So you can see I've got a couple of CT rooms and angios. These ones are for we've got a couple here as well. These are really important for neurology and cardiology patients to get to extremely quickly, so I've put them as close to the corridor and the lift as possible, and I think this one is set to both ward and outpatients, whereas these one of these, let's have a look. I'm clearly talking nonsense. Let's have a look here. So these ones are ward only, and these ones are ward and outpatients, and these ones are outpatients only, which is actually proving to be quite low. So it's possible that at some point we'll be adding ward to these ones as well. And you can see here that I have made it so that one office in the centre is sharing the space to do 2 rooms, which has been a great space saver. So we've managed to get a large toilet in here as a result for the waiting area. We've got a staff room, we've got another staff room down here, and we've got a huge janitor closet which is dealing with all sorts of different departments. It's not entirely set up yet, but yeah, we're getting there. And I've saved so much space and put in all these facilities. I've actually still got 2 left, so we've got room for expansion should any of these rooms become overwhelmed. So that's really great. The other thing is I have revamped the labs, as you can see here, completely changed them around. So I've made it now so that we have you come into an area where you have to get washed and cleaned up. Then here is where they store all their samples, all the fridges, and then this is the actual lab space. And this design has been repeated throughout. If it works, why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then what I've done is I've created each technician their own working area, and I've done this in all the labs, so they get their own glassworks, and where they need a microscope they've got one. That's not necessarily important here, but yeah, so they're all getting largely their own equipment and things like this. So you can see here, these are the departments. They've been redecorated a bit as well. Yeah, so done those, and redesign the waiting room to add in the big pharmacy. This is the big pharmacy, and this one has been inspired by the pharmacy that's actually in my local hospital, where it was just a big counter and all the drugs are behind this huge cage and there was just loads of people that can prescribe medicines along a huge counter, and then the room was largely chairs, just a sea of chairs filled with people waiting for their prescriptions to come through. So there's that. Also, a little change that I've made to this waiting area for the labs is I've put in this little reception area to make out that this is where you come and drop off your samples and where you pick up your results. Not that it functions at all. This idea has actually been completely stolen from another YouTuber. I like to watch a YouTuber called 75% Rad, and he makes a lot of content on Project Hospital, and he did this. He had except he did it in each room, so each room had a little reception area, and again, his didn't function because there's no sort of functionality for that in this game. It was just there for show, and I liked it so much that I've made one of my own. So well done, 75% Rad. It was so good I stole it. And another idea, actually, because he does a lot of hospital reviews from the Steam Workshop, was one of these Steam Workshop hospitals had little offices for department bosses, and so I've started to implement that as well. So I have finally redesigned this space in my trauma centre, which is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, so that I could create more room, because we were employing more and more staff and I needed more room for them. And what I've done is I've created a little space office for the boss of the entire department. So their office is through here, and then we've got the other trauma doctors through here. These ones actually deal mainly with they're actually diagnostic doctors. These are all my trauma doctors, and you can see I've also dealt with, so there's doors, like they've got a door coming out of their office this way as well as into the main office. They've got a door out to trauma because these are all the trauma doctors. These are all the stretcher nurses, and then these are actually all of the trauma and patient care nurses in here. So they've got their own little space that's also acting like a little reception to the area. And so we manage now to have patients walking into this space, and we no longer have a corridor going through an office, but it's actually just a corridor straight into trauma over here. Still got a few more bits that I want to do, but it's getting there. It really is getting there. So many changes. So yeah, the little boss office that I'm working on. And I've started to come up with a new redesign as well for these spaces on the wards, and again it's taking advantage of this main boss office as well. So yeah, I think we should probably crack on then with specialist mode. We've been through intern mode and resident mode, but now we've turned on this last one, disable pulsing hidden symptoms. So we've now got all three selected, putting us into specialist mode. And you can see here I've got a range of doctors that I've selected. These are, apart from my created character, I've selected a range of doctors here so that we can get through this much quicker. And they are all Patreons of mine. Look, we have Sam Berry, Peluso, Artemis, Fairwick, and Theodora. That's who we have with us today. A new selection of doctors, isn't that fun? And they all come across different departments, so we should get a nice range of things going on. So let's get started on it. So here we are with Theodora in her office. Theodora, you can see here, works in emergency, sort of like the GP clinic side of things. And here we have Paul Moore. Now you can see here that we have hidden symptoms. We don't know how many of them, and nothing is pulsating. But I can tell you that even though this hemothorax has essentially been diagnosed, and we can see if we hover over it here, it is actually a high chance of crashing. So we know that this would be pulsating, this symptom here, which we've not technically diagnosed. So it's one of these hidden symptoms here. So this would definitely be pulsating. Not only that, but he could also have a tachycardia. And the fact that we don't know how many hidden symptoms there are, we don't know whether there's no way that we can guess this. And that's the difference with specialist mode, is that we have to take all the precautions possible. We can see that he's got his arms crossed. If we unpause it, he is rocking because he is close to crashing. We don't know how close, but he's close to crashing. So we have to be very careful with Paul here. What I'm actually going to do is I think not give him his diagnosis right now. What I'm going to do is send him to the trauma centre. The reason I'm going to send him to trauma is because I would like them to check for this tachycardia, and I don't want him walking to an ECG place. So we're going to send him to trauma, so he's instantly hospitalised, and we're going to ask for him to have his heart monitored. That's the first thing that we are going to do, and he is already on his way, as you can see there. We have one sitting with Sam. Oh my goodness, look at how many patients are actually in internal medicine. Sam has an extremely busy day ahead of him. We might actually have to consider getting another doctor in. in the daytime. What I have done, because I know that Squeezle normally works here in the day, I've currently put Squeezle on night and brought Sam today so that we could spend some time with Sam, because I tend to not play with the doctors that are on nighttime shift because it's too quiet for that. It's too quiet for that. But now I'm looking at this and it seems too busy. So again, we don't really need to diagnose this patient. They're already diagnosed, and again we can see here that there is a high chance of crashing. So again, we've got to be really careful with this patient. If we come along these other symptoms that they may have, because of course they might not have these, nothing else is coming up as a high risk of crashing. This is a low risk, another low risk, low risk, and low risk. You see, slurred speech. What have we got here? Redness, numbness, and headaches. So we're not going to worry about this. What we're going to do is send her instantly to where she needs to be. So she's in internal medicine. Great. She probably has to be hospitalized for this, I would have thought. Let's do it all the same. We're going to hospitalise her. I'm also going to give her some painkillers, for this chest pain and potential headache that she has. And I'm also going to arrange the physical exam, because if she has got a headache and stuff like that, I suppose I'd like to know about it. It's always good, actually, look, I always think it's good to do a physical exam, whatever's going on, but you know what, we are going to skip it here because we've got no hidden symptoms that's causing her discomfort. Only the one which we know, which is chest pain, and I've already prescribed the painkillers because I'm always keen to get their comfort up high. So there we are. That's Carol Scott done with. Paul Moore slowly walking his way to the trauma centre. You're all right there, Paul. You're almost there. You are almost there. And as I say, it's good to not have this going through the office anymore, because he's probably going to walk himself. I don't know if he's going to come to one of these beds or get himself on here, but they do sometimes walk in and out of trauma. Really pleased that I finally got this sorted. And you can see as well that this office has lots of space as well, which is really nice. Plenty of space in here. Great. Back with Theodora. So it could be a range of things. A good start, I guess, is the physical. That's where we're going to start with this one. Right next door with Sam. Look, we've got this one. We've got quite the range of symptoms here just from triage and interview. So we're going to also do a physical in this room also. Indeed we are. See what we can find out about these two, Patricia and Michael here. Another thing I've been doing is naming staff throughout the hospital, custom names. All the Patreons are now in the game, but of course I've got 380 staff and I wanted to give them amusing names. So with the help of 2 Point, 2 Point Hospital, I've been giving these doctors much better names. Who have we got here? Donald Iceman, Bob Flob, Aubrey Asparagus, Brendan Chunder, Lance Radish, Danny Hogsback. So I'm naming every staff member in the hospital. So when this hospital does go onto the workshop, if you do wish to download the hospital, there'll be lots of cool names to find around my hospital. But they are all very much 2 Point inspired. Look at that. Theodore has found that Michael here has shingles. That is not nice. Not nice. So we're going to give him the antivirals that he requires. Will this be enough to get his comfort levels up? So his comfort levels are almost there. Not quite. So I'd like to see, before I send home, I would like to see if this is enough to get his comfort up to max. And look, with Sam here, pneumonia. She has pneumonia. Okay. So I think we're going to have to hospitalise her. So that's exactly what we are going to do. Now, we can see here that there are other things that could cause her to crash. Pleural infusion for a start. thoracentesis would have to be done quite quickly. We also have this bacteria, although the IV antibiotics would do it. So I'm keen to get her into an MRI stat. Indeed I am, because we can see this is high as well, but again the IV antibiotics would get the job done, and I know just because I play this game a lot, that none of these are high. So what we're going to do is actually remove this again. I'd like to send her to the trauma centre. That's exactly what I would like to do, rather than making her walk. Although, could we get away with it? I suppose I could put her into internal medicine. I could put her into trauma. I just always feel that trauma gets patients done faster than if they're actually on the ward. So I tend to use the ICU and the trauma centre to my advantage in that way, rather than sending them to the actual ward. I only tend to send them to the ward if all emergency things have been taken care of. Not always, but generally. And this is why I've just removed this diagnosis, because of course if they crash and they don't have a final diagnosis, they will go to the trauma centre. If they crash and they do have a final diagnosis, they will go to the ICU, and I would rather she went to trauma. Shall we take a risk? Keep her here and ask her to walk to the MRI as an outpatient, and we'll see how it goes, because from in my experience, thoracentesis tends to need to be done pretty quickly. But hey, let's find out, eh? Now, Mark Wright here is a patient that Peluso had. Peluso works in neurology, and Mark Wright came along and he had a whole list of things that could have been to do with his eye, and we did all sorts to try and work out exactly what it was. In the end, an angio was the thing that we needed, but it was one of the last things we did because it's not an obvious one for an eye thing. But there we are, we've got it. So we're going to give him his meds, which should do it. It should do the trick, I would have thought. I don't know if it will get his comfort up, will it? I don't know. So Peluso is now giving him the meds, but I think we're going to 4.5 stars is the most that we're going to get. Oh, recommendations. Okay, so the photophobia is what's causing him the most discomfort, which seems came from neurological testing. Did we do neurological testing? I don't know, we must have discovered it another way, probably through an interview. So if we give him the recommendations, that might just do it. Let's see. So his meds didn't get the 0.5 star, but maybe the recommendations will. Oh, Mark Allen. Oh, look at this. With Theodora has had his antivirals, but we can still see, look, that he has some discomfort, and there's also an unknown hidden symptom that's causing him the discomfort. Now I could just be lazy and give him these painkillers, which is what I'm probably going to do, because these painkillers have a positive on the discomfort, and that would be enough to cover this 0.5 star. So if you get that done, that would be great. Indeed it would. What is this? Oh, look, with Dr. B. Pepper here, we have a patient. It seems that we also have a diagnosis, but I'm also aware, look, I've got a feeling though that this is the same. No. So proton pump inhibitors is the treatment for this. And it's actually a low chance of crashing. In fact, basically, low means there's no chance. She won't crash, she won't die from it. However, she could have a bacteria issue, which she would need antibiotics for. But because we can't see pulsating symptoms, we have no clue. So in resident mode, when we were still seeing pulsating symptoms, I would know whether this was a risk or not. I now have no clue, so I have to test for it, and that's sort of the definitive difference here, is that I have to test for this now. So we're going to do a physical, and we can see here that we need to do a microbial cultivation for this. So I like to just do a physical anyway. I just think it's a good practice, and then we will do the where on earth is it? I've skipped right past it. we'll do this. That's where we'll start with this, because we don't actually know. As in real life, you wouldn't know whether she had this or not. You would have to test for it in order to potentially save her life. What have we got over here? Back with Sam, and a new patient with Sam. Again, lots of high risks. I know, just because I'm familiar with it. So it's a question of how do we best proceed. Well, we're going to start with a physical. That's what we are going to do. What have we got going on over here? Oh yes, the shingles. So we can see here the painkillers have done the trick. So we are going to send him home. This is somebody else I've been dealing with. It looks like Mark Wright as well is up to 5 stars. So we're going to send him home as well. And you can see now that Mark Wright's going to go to the pharmacy. It'll be the same with Michael Allen here. He will need to go and pick up his prescriptions. Indeed he will. There it is. Going to the chair in the pharmacy. And they have 2 pharmacies to choose from now. I built the second pharmacy just because I'm really restricted for space down here, and there wasn't really any sensible way to make this take a large capacity. And up here we had a huge toilet here and a huge cleaning room that just didn't seem necessary, so I moved the toilets into here, and this waiting room never got that busy. They process things pretty quick in these labs. I quite enjoy watching them do it, actually. So I thought, you know what, this would be a really great place. Plus we get a lot of technicians up here, and I don't know, it just felt like a good, sensible place for a really big pharmacy. So yeah, it made sense. I was trying to think of the best way to deal with it, and that seemed to be it in the end. Something else I did in the end with my cardio, you can see here that this is actually all high dependency, this half, because what I found is that I hardly get any cardiology patients coming into the regular ward, but I get quite a lot on high dependency. It tends to be the default place, and these just weren't enough. So I have half and halved it, but to look at it, it looks the same, except we do have these life support machines and whatnot. That is the only difference that I've gone with. I thought about making this red and putting a door in here, but it didn't look good. I didn't like it, so I didn't do it. And we've gone for something a bit more subtle. It also means, of course, that I can easily change. I'm thinking about putting these on all of these beds, so I can easily manipulate which way this swings. So if I need more regular beds and we've got space here, I can change this to include more beds, and we can go either way with it. You know, it just works. Sam has finished the physical, and we have our diagnosis. Now, we know that there's a high chance of crashing. And look, we've got this pleural infusion again. We also have the chance of a tachycardia. All sorts going on. Now, I am definitely keen to send him to trauma. The reason being, this tachycardia, rather than sending him to the ward and then them having to try and get him into a cardiography room to have an ECG, we can put him on to the trauma hospitalisation and do heart monitoring right there, and they don't have to send him anywhere. It appeals to me more. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to remove this final diagnosis, and we're going to send him here, because of course you can't send them to trauma if they have a final diagnosis, so we're going to have to remove it, because I want to check him for his tachycardia. Also, I believe they can give him IV antibiotics on the trauma centre as well, so that would only leave this one last chance of crashing, and that's when we can send him to the internal medicine department. I mean, he may not have this, we can't tell. We can't tell, so we'll probably have to send him for an MRI, and we're going to do it all through trauma. Another new case for Sam, and once again we know what it is, and there's a lot of high risk things going on here. There really is. So once again, I might actually just send him straight to trauma. That's the sort of person I am. Not even going to do a physical, just send them straight to trauma. I want to do another heart monitoring on him. It also means we're getting these people out. Look, see this woman here? She's clearly not okay. Can I hospitalise her from here? Yes. Excellent. I think that came through with an update, where if they're waiting for X-ray or something in radiology, or if they're waiting for some sort of lab results, it seems even in waiting rooms waiting to be seen, if you now hospitalise them, the game will just send them straight to hospitalisation, which is amazing. It's something that I've been wanting in this game for the longest time, and it now finally is a thing, because we know what's wrong, and she was really rocking. She is not well. She is going to crash. We need to get her sorted out. So that's great. I'm actually going to keep a close eye on her. I want her hospitalised. I want her on IV antibiotics right away. And then she's still not out of the woods. We've got a lot going on here. Also going to see about getting her an MRI. If she crashes before, she'll end up in the ICU, and that's fine. That's fine. But again, it should probably be more stable sending her to trauma, but we've sent quite a few to trauma. Don't want to overwhelm them because we do have emergencies coming in also. Another slam dunk case for Sam here. There we go. Send home. Just some eardrops. Just some eardrops. It's good that we're managing to get through this quite quickly. I noticed that this gentleman is rocking as well. Okay. He's not rocking quite as violently. There we go. John is now going to the pharmacy. Let's have a look at this guy. Yeah, he could be a problem. He's being called. We're going to put him on a code blue because he could crash. It's not so clean cut for her, but yeah, this guy is in need. He's in desperate need. Let's get this platelet transfusion going. I'm also going to prescribe rest. Whenever I see rest, I like to prescribe that. Just because I think it's something I would want to hear. Oh, you should get plenty of rest. I don't know. There's something comforting about that. There's literally everything I'm basing it on. And to try and increase his comfort a little bit more, because you can see there we've caused some discomfort from his blood draw and his serologic sampling, so we're going to give him some painkillers for that as well. I'm hoping he'll be fine. James Thomas has been a very complex thing that I've been dealing with. He is on this event emergency, and he has arguably the most difficult illness in the game, which is something we'll be covering in detail in one episode on how to deal with these. But he's been particularly tricky. I mean, as soon as he arrived, he fell into 2 comas. It's been an absolute nightmare, and I've been working, and sometimes this is ticked, sometimes he's ill again, it's ticked, ill again, ticked, ill again. So I'm watching him like a hawk. I've got him through all of the surgeries that he needed and whatnot, but I didn't rest there. I wanted to make sure, because again, I saw hidden symptoms. I have no way of knowing if they're pulsating, so you have to cover all bases. So I did a physical and have now found out that he has a wound infection, which would have come from the surgical team. The reason being is I've had 4 penetrating trauma heads come into my hospital all at the same time. 4. And so one of my surgical teams was working all night, and then I made them stay all day as well. And so I knew that there was an increased risk of problems after surgery because they're getting tired. But they are saving lives. So we're going to give him this antiseptics to resolve that. I'm also going to give him the diet modification for this hypertension. It's not really necessary, but I feel that when they're in such dire needs, I want to try and deal with everything. And I can now see here we have no missing symptoms. Once these 2 have gone through, we would have dealt with everything. But I've known them to fall into comas even once everything's been resolved. So I'm still going to be keeping an eye on James. Indeed I am. Peter Johnson has come into Sammy here. He has diabetes. Oh dear, that's not a diagnosis you want to give someone, is it? But look, again, we could have pulsating symptoms. We just don't know. Which means we're going to have to test for this. We need to give him his insulin. We're going to do a physical. That's one of the first things that we are going to do. I always feel like we should do a physical. Now, we can do urgent echoes in trauma, but I think he's not rocking too violently. I think I might have him walk to get an echo, is what I'm probably going to do with Peter here. We will... Oh, look, we did that event. They're finally happy with everybody, are they? Good. We're going to diagnose him. We're up to 48. We're very close now. And we're going to prescribe the insulin. But then I'm going to ask him to go for the echo. Indeed, I am, because he may need some ACE inhibitors. So I could technically send Peter home now, but I'm not going to, because there is this risk. If we weren't in specialist mode, if this wasn't pulsating, we would send him home. But we're in specialist mode. We don't know if there's a pulsating symptom. So indeed, we are going to send him for that test to be on the safe side. The Casey William case, he's had his thoracentesis. He might have a tachycardia, however. So before we do anything else, we're going to send him for an ECG just to check this over. I think that's going to be for the best. We really are spending a lot of time with Sammy today. My goodness, nobody else has had a chance to get in any sort of illnesses. I might stick around just so that we can at least get one illness with each Patreon here. Let's do a physical. She has a whole list of potential problems here. So let's see if we can narrow it down, starting with the physical. Thought I would check on the others to see what they're up to. Peluso is on a break. Fenwick is taking a break. What's Artemis doing? Because I don't think we've actually spent any time. Artemis works in cardiology, and she's in one of these offices, so she actually deals with these patients here. That's possibly why Artemis isn't coming up. That's a bit of a shame, isn't it? We'll have to spend some time with Artemis another time, because one of the things I was thinking about doing is doing deep dives into each department, looking at the illnesses, the causes of crashes, how long certain types of symptoms can take to crash, the best way to deal with certain illnesses, and working our way from easiest department, which I would say is probably orthopedic, right up to arguably the most difficult, I'm going to say, is neurology, neurology purely based on that one penetrating head trauma. Otherwise, probably cardiology. They are very close to each other, but for different reasons. They're difficult in different ways. So that's the series that I am thinking about doing, and I'm interested in your feedback. Actually, do you enjoy watching me go through the cases and seeing how I deal with the patients, rather than the building part? Now that we're sort of largely built this hospital and we are into playing in the hospital, are you enjoying the gameplay? Are you interested in covering the cases? I would like to know, because that's all we would be doing with the deep dives, is largely looking at specific illnesses. Why are they dangerous? How quickly do you need to deal with them, and what can you expect, and that sort of stuff. Are you interested in me covering those sorts of things? And also, if you have any questions about the game, hopefully I'll be able to answer them for you as well, because I know it can be a bit of a tricky game to get into, but it is very rewarding once you do. So we have found that Carol has nausea. Looking at these symptoms, I would like to do abdominal palpitations. Patron Hello Sudden has leveled up to specialist. She works on internal medicine as well. Oh look, she's going to be doing some work on Paul Moore. Do you remember Paul Moore, everyone? Paul Moore. There he is. And here's Hello Sudden Patron. So she's doing a physical examination on Paul. Seems that he is moving on. Seems his heart is okay though. Look, he had his heart monitoring and we've not found anything, so he doesn't have a tachycardia. It looks like that they all the same have ordered him an ECG and a whole battery of tests. All the same. We're going to give him those painkillers because I notice here that his discomfort's quite low. I don't want to do emergency care because it creates quite a lot of discomfort, and the chest injury is actually causing him less discomfort than the emergency care would, so we're not going to be doing that. But yeah, hopefully, because we can see here that he does actually have an unknown hidden symptom that's causing him discomfort, so maybe this battery of tests will help find that, and maybe it'll be Halo-Sudden that discovers it. Abdominal palpitations found, nothing. Can you believe it? I'm going to check for loss of vision here. It'll let us know if she's got CO poisoning. This is quite common, this symptom, because again, not all symptoms are guaranteed when they come in with a particular illness, but this loss of vision is a regular symptom that is active for CO poisoning, and amazingly something that doesn't come up in an interview. You would think it's something they would mention. Okay, in this case it is negative, but all the same, sudden, complete or partial blindness I think is something you would mention in an interview, but it rarely comes up in an interview. Okay, let's see here. Could have something going on with the ears. And this is a test that we can actually do right here. Sammy can do this, so let's do it. Oh, there we are. I also ordered an ear examination, but probably not necessary because we've got it. We've got it. We're up to 49. Okay, so time to hospitalise. Do you know what? She's got nausea. I might... Mind you, her discomfort is fine. No discomfort. Okay, we'll leave it at that then, I reckon. Theodora has another patient coming in. Karen Robinson. A few things it could be. So we're going to start, as always, with the physical. The physical showed she has the common cold. Well, that's absolutely fine, isn't it? And that made our 50, as we can hear. So we're going to advise her to get some rest, because that's all. I mean, it's a cold. I mean, what else can you do? She does seem to have some breathing problems though, which is causing her discomfort. So we're going to sort that out and also try and bring her fever down a little bit. And this should help increase her comfort, which is great. And there we are. Objective for insurance company has been completed. Correctly diagnosed patients of controlled doctors in specialist mode, 50 out of 50. And we've had a 50,000 government grant. We are getting so much money piling up here. Now, the next one is to treat patients of controlled doctors in specialist mode, and we have to do 60 of them. Are you interested in seeing me cover some or all of these? Would you like that? You know, maybe this could be part of our deep dive into different departments. We could do controlled doctors in different departments and see how they go. Let me know how you feel about this sort of thing. Do you enjoy going over the cases? I certainly do, but I'm just not sure if you guys do. So please do let me know. But there we are. That is it for today. And as always, the hospital is constantly changing. I hope you are enjoying the changes that are occurring and are excited for the new department. I hope it's going to fit there, I really do. And I wonder what changes we'll have to make to this, because ambulances can be vandalised in the new DLC as well. So it'll be interesting to see what I'll need to do to this to make sure that the ambulances are secure. And there's also a new type of ambulance coming as well. And I wonder if helicopters will be a thing coming with the DLC, because that'd be really slick, getting all this working. I hope we can put choppers on the roof. I really do. Anyway, there we are. So all the feedback you can muster about me covering cases, I would love to know if you are interested. What else would you like to see me do in Project Hospital, and any questions of gameplay that you may have as well? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next episode. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you to all my Patreons for their continued support.